As a Bears fan, I find it hard at times to criticize other organizations that have actually won world championships since 1985. That was the last time the Bears won one, was the 1985 season. I was 4 years old when the Bears won their only Super Bowl title. But I do have to say this. At some point in time, when are people going to start questioning some of the things about the New England Patriots? After years of being a big time, big game money player, Tom Brady in the past couple of years, to me, has kind of underwhelmed and underperformed, and maybe you could argue choked at times in big games and big moment situations. And Bill Belichick, a guy who's supposed to be such a mastermind of the game and such a great X's and O's guy, particularly on the defensive side of the football, the New England Patriots for years have had problems on that very side of the football. They can't stop anybody when it really matters the most. A great regular season team that somehow, over the past several years, falls short of winning a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, granted, the Patriots over the past 12 seasons have won 3 Super Bowls and been to 2 others. But the last 2 times they went to the Super Bowl, they lost. And both times it was to the same team. In basically the same manner and same fashion, with the Giants doing the same thing to them. It's one thing if it happened once, but that first time it happened was when the Patriots were already 18-0 and staring down the barrel of making history, going 19-0 and telling those 72 Dolphins to go F themselves and go retire into oblivion once and for all so we don't have to listen to them anymore. But then, in the 2011 season, you get to the Super Bowl, and they get beat by the Giants again. At some point in time, we have to start questioning some of the things that are going on in New England. And maybe, as much as I like and respect Tom Brady, start to question his big game performances in recent years. And in particular, question the sweater, question the hoodie, question Bill Belichick, because he deserves it. Look at the Patriots this year, 12-4. Yeah, in a weak AFC East, but by God, you beat who you play. They went 12-4. First in the AFC East, had a first round bye. And then they lose the AFC Championship game at home to Baltimore. And it wasn't even really that close or competitive of a game. Quite frankly, Baltimore pretty much beat them in every facet and aspect of the game. How does this happen? Now, when you look at this Patriots team heading into this season, they really needed to improve both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball in terms of creating a physical presence and establishing more of a physical identity. And to be fair, I think they did a good job of that, at least on the offensive side of the football. When you look at Stephen Ridley, he really established himself with a team full of other running backs that were going to get carries. He established himself as the man. He had 1,263 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Except for the occasional maybe fumble or whatever, he really established himself as the leader featured back. And Tom Brady in the regular season was vintage Tom Brady. Had another great statistical year, 4,827 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. I mean, this was an offense that had, I thought, gotten a little too pass and finesse happy and lost the ability at times to slow the game down and get physical and gain those tough yards between the tackles when they needed to in the running game. But they had that in 2012 by and large. They finished first in the league in points, first in total yards, fourth in passing yards, seventh in rushing yards. This was an offense that could move the ball both on you through the air and on the ground. Sure, you had injuries to Gronkowski in where he missed the AFC Championship game. You had injuries to Hernandez and Gronk both during the season. So that didn't help them, but they still had enough pieces, you would think, in theory, on offense to get the damn job done, especially with having Tom Brady at quarterback. But you look at the defensive side of the football. This has been an area of concern for this team for quite a number of years. They may have made some small improvements, but by God, it sure as hell didn't look like it by the time you got to the AFC Championship game. During the regular season, they were 9th in points allowed, but 25th overall in yards allowed, 9th in rushing yards allowed, but 29th in passing yards allowed. How many years has the pass rush and the secondary been an issue for the New England Patriots? Years. And it seems like no matter what they do with the investment of draft picks and etc. into these holes and into these positions of need, they aren't getting any improvements. Or if they are, they're getting very small, insignificant improvements. When do Patriots fans and when do the national sports media really start to take Bill Belichick and that front office in New England to task for some of their failures to address these glaring needs that have been prevalent for a number of years now? Now, when we talk about draft history, one thing you've heard a lot about in recent years is the genius of Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots front office when it comes to the draft, the maneuvering, taking picks this year, turning them into the picks next year, and always setting themselves up, it seems like, in a position of strength for both the draft that they're in and the following draft as well. Well, that's one part of it, and the Patriots, without question, did a great job of that. They were running the draft boards. They were owning the draft boards. But the fact is, you still have to execute well. And the Patriots' execution hasn't been all that great over the past 5 years. You look at the 2008 draft. Gerard Mayo was a very, very good choice. But that's about all that's left from that draft class. That's not good. Those are guys that should be entering the primes of their career, like Gerard Mayo is. And instead, he's the only one left from that draft class. Look at 2009. Sebastian Vollmer ended up being a solid pick. Julian Edelman ended up being a nice value pick in the 7th round. But that's all you really got from that draft. That's not good. Look at 2010. Devin McCourty was originally drafted in the 1st round as a corner, an attempt to address their weakness in the secondary. Now, he had a great year, but it came at free safety. It wasn't even at the position he was originally drafted to play. You had other guys in that draft. 2010 was a bit of a stronger draft. It produced Brandon Spikes and Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. Probably out of the past five drafts, that was their strongest one. But you look at their 1st round pick. He's arguably been the weakest of the 4 and had to change positions in order to be really effective and really come through for that Patriots organization. 2011, the Patriots went into that draft knowing that they needed to get a little bit more of a physical identity on the offensive side of the football. So they drafted Nate Solder. They drafted running backs like Ridley and Vereen. Those are all guys that were contributors. But 2012, you got some much needed help on defense, but it still wasn't enough. You got guys like Chandler Jones and Hightower and Tavon Wilson and Alfonso Dennard in the 7th round. But you look at it, they still had glaring weaknesses at cornerback, and I didn't mention several of the defensive backs that they've taken in recent years that really haven't worked out or just been flat-out busts. They end up having to make a trade in the late portion of the season to go get a Kib Talib from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Talib obviously was a significant upgrade to everything else they had in the position. But when you get to the AFC Championship game, they were starting at corner. They were starting a Kib Talib, who was somebody they had to acquire in a midseason trade for somebody else, and a 7th round pick in Alfonso Dennard. Those were their 2 starting corners. They have addressed this position time after time after time in the draft, both corner and safety. And their secondary still sucks. They have addressed linebacker and the defensive front, and their pass rush still isn't that great. How many times do the Patriots have to keep addressing these same needs and have them not work out or not see enough improvements before they say, we've got a problem here? And when you look at this offseason for the New England Patriots, I know I've been hard on them in some ways, but frankly, they deserve it a little bit. You've been good for so many years, and you've fallen short so many times in recent years, lost 2 Super Bowls, and lost what should have been a really good chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. This is a team that still is built to win now and still has the potential, if they can address some certain areas, to be right back in the hunt again next year and the year after and maybe even the year after that, and maybe hoist 1 or even 2 more Lombardi trophies with Brady and Belichick. But they have to do a better job in this draft. They need several players that come in and contribute immediately. And when I look at team needs, now you're looking at a team that has their number 1 wide receiver, Wes Welker, is going into free agency. And they may or may not re-sign him. They need to re-sign him. And they also need to surround him with a physical, specimen type of possession receiver on the outside. And maybe a real vertical deep threat. Because when you look at what happened in the AFC Championship game, Gronkowski wasn't there, so you arguably lost their best all-around weapon in the passing game. And you had Wes Welker and Aaron Hernandez, and then that was really it. You were spreading out defenses with 3 wide receivers. You throw a Brandon Lloyd in there, somebody else in there, and an Aaron Hernandez in there. But it was like you were in a military exercise or in a battle and war, and you're trying to intimidate people by spreading out the front. But then the people look closer, and you're pointing at them with a bunch of Red Ryder BB guns. You're more likely to shoot your own eye out than you are to win in a shootout. And that's just the way it is. This is a team that needs, even if they do bring back Wes Welker, they're going to need, to me, not just one, but potentially two wide receivers. They need a big, tall, physical red zone target on the outside, somebody other than Gronkowski or Hernandez, and they need a guy on the outside that could stretch the field vertically to open up the middle of the field potentially for Brandon Lloyd and Wes Welker to work in out of the slot, and also to help benefit Gronkowski and Hernandez as well. This team also has needs, I feel, on the defensive side of the ball. Their defensive line still needs to be addressed, especially defensive tackle on the other side of Vince Wilfork. This is a team that still needs to find a number one type cornerback. They still don't have it. Maybe Aqib Talib could be that guy for them. But even if Talib is the guy, and unless Alfonso Dennard really establishes himself as a legit NFL starting quarterback, he's a guy I like a lot. But until proven otherwise, he could be upgraded, and he needs to be upgraded. You could also use some more help potentially at defensive end. I really like Chandler Jones, but what else do they really have outside of that? That's going to be the challenge for the Patriots in this upcoming draft. Now that they don't have a ton of picks to play with, they can't sit there and play the game and maneuver on the board. Their window of opportunity to win is right now and in the next couple of years. They need to sit tight this year and hit on the picks that they have, address key needs, find upgrades of talent at the right positions in the right way. This could be a team that is right back in the picture again next year and, could actually, unlike in recent seasons where they've fallen short, actually go all the way. But if they don't do that and they don't address some of these needs, getting better on the defensive front, getting better at corner, getting bigger and better playmakers on the outside at wide receiver, this is a team that's going to fool everybody, win 11, 12, 13 games in the regular season, and then come playoff time, it's going to look like they choked because, quite frankly, just like this year, they probably did.